call this meeting in order on January 25th, 2022. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember James Blair.
He called in his absence, so we'll excuse him right at this point, actually. We'll do that at the agenda approval.
Councilmember Joshua Crossman.
Here.
Sorry, we had a little technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. Councilmember Joseph Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Holly Smith. Here. Councilmember Brian Hess.
Here.
Councilmember Lynn Roy. Here. Councilmember Terry Kaminsky. Here. Joe DePinto.
Here. And can we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Blair?
Move that we exclude Councilmember Blair.
For a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excused. All right. Agenda item, can we get agenda approval? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3, special presentations. There is none scheduled. 4, public comment. Do we have any public comment on the online? Not appear to be any. Move on to consent agenda. And there is a couple items on there. I mean, it's in the agenda packet if you read through, but I'm going to have Cody, our public service director, just go over that just in case there's any confusion.
Okay, so council, you'll notice on your consent agenda is a final plat for Storehouse. This is the first of many. So part of our requirements is when we have a final plat, so when a development's done and ready to start building the actual buildings, they will go to final plat. Similar, you'll see this when we, Tahoma Terra on the hill, when the hutch, all those get ready to do or happen. And council has to approve it as they're kind of as part of the line of approval. Council, the mayor, city administrator, and myself have to be a final approval on those plat maps. So what it is for you is something to just know that this is something that's coming into town. They submitted a plat, it's been approved by our engineer, it's been approved by our planning department, and just to give you a visual on it. If you want a printout, it's quite a large, it's a actual blueprints and everything and CAD drawings of this plat. So we can print those out for you, but they can't go in your packet because they're like 800 pages and it just doesn't make sense to do that. So if you guys want actual printouts, I can provide them to you. For your knowledge, there's nothing you would really need to do. I mean, there's nothing you adjust or make a decision on in terms of like, oh, I don't think this building looks right. Let's shift to the left 3 feet. Like that wouldn't be something you would be expected to do. But you would be expected to, just vet that this is something that we've gone through and looked at and secured. And it'll be on your consent agenda, but there'll be a lot of those coming through in the coming months, especially with water rights on the horizon. So yes, Councilmember Hess.
You said it was in our packet.
There's not a map in your packet. It's just the middle.
So all we're gonna get is just that, here's the address and that's it.
Here's the address and the company or whatever the plat is. If you want the actual map, we can print those for you and pull those for you.
Is there a way to get it for future ones? A link that we could click on, be able to view it visually on, if that's a possibility.
So it requires a program to run. It doesn't run like on Adobe. It runs off of a CAD program. So we could have a link, but if you didn't have the program yourself, you wouldn't be able to view it and viewers wouldn't be able to view it. We could probably supply a PDF of maybe just an overlawn drawing of that, but it wouldn't have all of the plat information on there because it's layers and layers that go into it.
I understand all that. It's just being able to get an idea of where it's at. And because if you're going to, it was odd that you said you're going to approve this. Everybody's looked at it and all we did is words with a address. And it's kind of an odd thing if you're going to say, then, because then I would just ask, why are we involved with it at all if we're not going to get a chance to look at it or
Over the years. Sorry, Council, as part of the RCW that it's required that council approves, that staff has actually looked at it. I can vouch that staff has actually looked at it. Cody can vouch for his staff that they've looked at it. But council needs to be aware that we have gone through these motions.
It's similar to the other items on a consent agenda, like where, we purchase something from a company, you would go, I want to see what that item was purchased. I want to see the size of it. I want to see the description. It just says, purchase this item, right? Purchase the desk. It doesn't say all those dimensions, but we can provide those for you if you're interested to see those. Just putting them on the packet would be extensive. We can maybe put a PDF in the future of a smaller version of maybe one picture of it, so you'd get an idea.
Doesn't Casey usually have those when she's working on plat approvals?
The plat maps were done by Casey. Casey, as you know, left. So the plat maps are done by Sarah right now and Derek. Casey left
In December.
about 4 or 5 years ago. No, I'm just. No, she left in December, the beginning of December. I just wanted to. So, and that'll bring you to another point. We did, I don't want to steal, there'll be something about that at the end of this meeting. We'll talk about the replacement of that position.
And I appreciate you explaining that.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know, normally it wouldn't even pop up on here, it'd just be in your consent agenda, we just breeze over it, but I wanted to let you know, because there's gonna be a lot of these coming forward with all these plats we're having in town, so.
Thank you, Cody. Is there any other questions? Ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's the motion a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New business. Cody, could you please step back up and talk about the Park Foundation?
Switching my hats over. So as council knows, several of you reached out, which is awesome. The Park Foundation was something we talked about in a study session several months, not several months ago, I think it was a month ago. And there was an opportunity for us to get on board with them to provide a charitable organization to go out for some funding for us for different projects. I can put it in there, in your packet, the actual contract and a brief description of kind of what their mission statement is, along with the link that you could click to visit their page and kind of see what they do. The biggest thing for us is, you'll notice when we talked about this last time, it was $10,000. The price has dropped to $7,500 because I'm a tough negotiator. Not really. Our population numbers fall in the 7,500 range, not the 10,000 range. So I'll take credit. The other thing you'll notice is at the very end of the contract, or near the end, there is the guarantee of at least $10,000 in grant funds or some kind of security funds, and they're already working on that. Mayor Pino can speak to it. They've already started because our packet is due for budget requests next week. So they already started this week with the hope and the belief that they were gonna get approved to be signed with us. I'll just really briefly describe them to the public, and then if you guys have any follow-up questions. The Park Foundation is a charitable organization that uses its leverage and abilities to reach out for grant funding for park projects, art projects, recreation activities, and different cultural items. And they use the charitable status to get some of the funding that cities might not be able to receive by themselves.
Cody, could you talk about the dog park and how we're already starting to work with them on that?
Yeah, so one of the things we already started is the dog park we budgeted for the dog park. Council and their infinite wisdom decided to budget for the dog park, which is great, but it's always better to save money if we can. So they're reaching out for some state funding and some charitable organizations to try to alleviate some of our need to budget for that. So any money we get for the dog park, we'll actually be able to apply that money that was budgeted for the dog park to other projects. So it's just a great opportunity. They're already starting work. The trail's another one where, they're trying to reach out for funding. The fitness pad, there's a couple other projects they're working on just to try to get some initial grant work and grant funding going. It's a great opportunity to partner with an organization. And I can speak from experience last year in trying to apply for grants that I struggled with a lot of grants because I wasn't a charitable organization. Specifically, when I applied for a hospital like Kaiser, I applied and they said, hey, we'd love to accept your program, but we only accept charitable organization requests. So if I was a charitable organization, I could have got that $50,000 grant from Kaiser Permanente. So there's a lot of stuff like that where they will be very useful in having their ability. And they also have grant writers on staff along with other lobbyists that we can access and use for these kind of projects, which will be huge in the future. So.
Councilman Smith.
So it's a 3-year contract.
Correct.
And it's $7,500 a year. And that's in the contract. They can't raise that at least for.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And if there was any changes, as you noticed, 30 days, we can set, if you guys decide, hey, this is not working out, we want to get rid of it, we have 30 days notice, we can terminate the contract. Yes, Councilmember Hess.
Reading through that, I do have a few questions I'm gonna let me out with. One of them is, one, I want to say thanks for setting this up. This is a great program. I looked at their website, I read through the contract. I just have a few questions because it doesn't quite address it clearly.
Yeah.
One of them is because it is associated with art. If they go out and they acquire pieces of art, sculptures, let's say for the dog park, wonderful, beautiful pieces of sculpture.
Mhm.
Who's the owner of it once it gets put into the dog park?
Yeah, so that isn't addressed in the contract, but they don't keep possession of things. They, even when events are put on or items are put in, they like to be there in recognition when the item's installed, but they don't require their name to be installed on it somewhere or put on the side or something. So it would be ours and there wouldn't be any connection besides our gratefulness and maybe at the opening ceremony for that kind of thing.
So then whatever it is belongs to the city and is managed and owned by the city at that point.
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't have to return the statues in 3 years.
Okay. Well, no, it's.
No, I know, I was just I'm making a joke. Yeah.
No, it's, also, reading through it, I was reading, when they come down to the financial procedures in section 5, talks about endowments and funds, there. My understanding is that the endowments are for the organization as a whole to be divvied up amongst the 3 cities, because we will be the 3rd city, my understanding.
The 3rd city and there'll be a county too. And so there is 2, they have their own, they have some funds they get just generously donated. Like we want to donate this to parks and those would be divided among the cities. When they specifically go for something like the dog park, that money isn't going into their fund to hand out to cities. It goes straight from them to us, or it's their support in getting that. So good question in terms of, yeah, they have a fund where sometimes they will get donations directly to it. Someone might, an estate might donate some money as a, a gift or a charitable gift, and then they would use that money to divvy out to the cities for different projects. Yes. But what we're doing with them right now is just reaching out for their support and funding stuff on the legislative agenda. And then in the future, different grants, and it would go straight to us and not into like a slush fund that they could give out to someone.
Because I guess the follow-up question would be, the reason why I'm asking is like, let's say, Mayor DePinto all of a sudden becomes a billionaire because he invents something that just the world needs. And when he passes away, he says, gives to the park an endowment and says, I want it used for Yelm. Is that something, or if he gives that endowment to park, that they go, okay, thank you, and now this is what we, even though that if there is no saying this is a for city specific or county specific or a very specific project, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so good 2 questions. Ideally, if that happened, Mayor DePinto passed away and he had $1 million, he would just gift it to the city itself and say, I want to give the city. But if he went through the Park Foundation, the Park Foundation would, and I'm not going to speak for them, but just in talking with them, that any funds directed towards the city go to that city.
Okay.
So if it's happened before where they had specific funds, like to Tenino Quarry, they had a musical orchestra that happened in the quarry. They had specific funds donated to Tenino, and then they use those funds for that. They didn't go to somewhere else.
Okay.
Can't speak from a large scale, but just in the past, those things have happened.
Can I, on that note, I think on section 3, accountability and stewardship, halfway through that first section, it says the Park Foundation shall develop reporting processes and institute compliance procedures and audit policies that ensure that donated funds are accounted for, expenditures are made in accordance with donors' wishes. So would that fall in line with that?
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Councilmember Richardson.
Other questions?
Also going through it, reading about it, they have their executive committee. Once we join, we have to provide a member for that. Am I understanding that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The executive committee members, they receive a stipend, just like a annual salary or something like that. My understanding from reading the paperwork, is that correct?
That sounds correct. Yes. I'll have to verify, but yes, that sounds correct.
Okay. Going from the city, who will be the representative?
We most likely, and I'll lean on Mayor DePinto to make a decision, but most likely would have a council member be one of your committees that would be appointed. And in lieu of a stipend, since you guys are already paid, I assume we wouldn't take on that, and that would just be put back into the fund itself. Not speaking for anyone, that's just what my thought process would be in that.
I just wanted clarification on these things. If they stipulate there had to be an elected individual, or could it be somebody else that might be appointed or something?
Yeah, I'll clarify with them to make sure that I'm not misspeaking, but I will clarify with them.
Okay, just for clarity, this group is raising money, so they're not buying our art for us, right? That art is our decision.
Yeah, so, and if specifically, if you were going for a piece of art, say you really wanted like a flame or something, like an eternal flame or and you were going for that piece of art, we would say, hey, we have this piece of art we want to buy. Can you find money for it? They may use the art we want to buy to raise funds and go, hey, here's the art we're looking at, raise funds, and then they could use that. But we would be on the purchasing end. They're the
So
transfer.
we initiate what we want to ask them to do.
Yeah, that's exactly, we are their guiding source. If we say we don't want to do anything, don't do anything for us, they're not going to do anything.
Okay, so these requests could come from, for instance, the beautification committee or the arts commission, so it's not going to affect any of that. We are the ones that.
Yeah, we put the request forward. So if council decides, the big thing is like our legislative agenda, so I took one of our priorities on legislative agenda and gave it to the Parks Committee because that was what council approved last year. Similar this year when we have talks and discussion and council says, hey, we really want to build, UFO park or something. I don't know. So if we want to do something like that and council's really on board with that, we would start raising money. Or if council wants to build, a pool, we would start trying to find money that way. Those are the kind of things we would do.
So we're paying them 7,500 to get 10,000 minimum. And if we don't think of a project each year, we can accrue that money, can we?
We'll always have projects.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we have projects.
You
Okay.
can fire me if we don't have a
One more
project.
thing that I thought was incoherent in this whole thing is this one line that says, the Park Foundation shall seek and receive donations for scholarships for the city's low-income families. How is that relevant to this project?
So part of they do is they'll partner with the school as well. Part of what we're paying for is them to come in and do that kind of thing. So their Park Foundation has its own scholarship program, and that's what they're referring to, is that people, now that we're in this partnership, our low-income students could apply for these scholarships from the Park Foundation.
Scholarships for art or for what?
For school, for college.
Does that seem like it's the same thing to you guys?
It is, from understanding, because the C in park is for culture. And so it's helping with the cultural awareness of what's going on within the community. And so it does help out. And
Even though we already have one of those through the Bounty for Families, through the school.
You can never
It's
have,
another.
Never have enough
as a
scholarships.
former student, you never have enough scholarship opportunity. I think it's just an add-on. It's not something we're like invest. So think of it as something that comes with the prize,
It
right?
seemed out of place to me completely.
Yeah, it is a little weird in terms of, you wouldn't think that would be something, but a lot of these organizations like the River Foundation has a scholarship program. The Nisqually Wildlife, the Nisqually River Foundation has a scholarship program. So those are the kind, like they have those things, including to try to get people interested in these kind of things, right? If you have a scholarship program that says, hey, if you're going to college for the arts, or you're going to college for, cultural recreation, you can apply for a scholarship from us. It gets people interested in these fields that may
So
be
it's in
understudied.
these fields, that's what I was asking. It's not just I go, here's money for a math scholarship. That has nothing to do with the arts.
So I'll have to clarify that. It can only apply in those fields, but my thought is, if any business or any kind of organization like this has a scholarship program, is normally a good thing. It gets kids interested. They have to write something. They'll have to come up with some idea to apply for these scholarships. So good question.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we authorize Mayor DePinto to sign an MOU between the city of Yelm and the Park Foundation to include the amount of $7,500.
It's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second that.
For Richardson. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, council. Moving on to new business item B, Teamsters Collective Bargaining Agreement. And this is another.
Switch your hat.
Okay. So council, as you know, from last year, we started, some of you probably just heard of because it started while most of you weren't even on council. Last year, we started negotiations with the Teamsters unit. We believe we started in June of last year. Negotiations were kind of back and forth for several months while we were waiting for financials and approvals. In November, council kind of gave us some new authorization. We used that authorization to come to a tentative agreement with the Teamsters Union early this year, which is awesome. And before you is that CBA with the council. I know some of the council members weren't in this, so I'll be happy to entertain questions about kind of where we got to and how we got to this. In that CBA are the constraints that council, I wouldn't call them constraints, the guidelines council put on us and told, here's what we want to do and here's what we think is fair. We did that. We were able to come to an agreement that cleans up a lot of the language in the CBA, is a fair COLA in the CBA, and along with some balancing of some underpaid positions that were underrepresented and not fair. And I would not the average of where they should be. So we did all those things. We had a TA. I'm happy to report that the Teamsters approved it unanimously last week. And now it comes before council. You are the final approving authority. The reason this one, the reason we kind of wanted to get this one hurried up and get on this agenda was because in order for the pay to take effect for February and to have the most time available for our finance staff to get that done, getting it approved now would allow us to make that adjustment now and not have to go through a bunch of back pay issues and stuff next month or in the month after. So before you use the CBA, I'd be happy to entertain questions. It's a really long CBA, so I won't go through each section, but if you had a specific question, I'll try to tell you how we came to that agreement and why it's there.
And the contract is in your packet, so you should have been able to read it if you wanted to. Any questions? Councilmember Hess.
And if you can just, is Seattle Tacoma Bellevue CPI-U, is that the Washington State standard?
It's the standard for Western Washington.
The standard for Western Washington?
Yeah, Eastern Washington, as you probably know, is vastly different in their in how their monetary gains and their CPI pop up. So there's a Western CPI that we chose not to use because it does take into account things that aren't as accurate for the area we're in.
I was just wondering, I just want to know if that was how big that standard is and all that.
That'd be standard for our area. Olympia uses that, Lacey. So it's pretty standard for the area we are currently in.
Any other questions? Councilmember Fucci.
I'd like to move that we authorize Mayor DePinto to sign the Teamsters CBA covering the years 2022, 23, and 24.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I just want to say thank you, council. The Teamsters have been very excited about this and they just really, I've heard from the union reps how much they appreciate your guys' willingness to work together and really honor just kind of the world we're in right now. So they're very excited and the employees are happy. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And the Teamsters Union employees have been coming around, thanking all the staff that put this together and extended that to the council. And one, make sure that you all knew that as well. So thank you so much on their behalf as well. All right, moving on to new business. Item number C, election of mayor pro tem. Now, this is a position that hasn't been filled since Councilmember Stillwell of last year vacated that seat, that position. So what this does, what a mayor pro tem does is act in the mayor's stead if he is absent or she is absent, and runs meetings like a council meeting if the mayor's not here, a study session if the mayor's not here. You know, the odds are I'm probably going to be here. I haven't missed a meeting yet, but you never know. So
Will you make your $1 billion?
when I make my $1 billion, yes, my invention, I will maybe rethink it. I'll just be a better mayor. I'll spice stuff for everybody. No, so that's the biggest thing. And then also, if the mayor can't attend like an event, you would go in their stead as well. And so this is a council decision. So you will, among yourselves, nominate one of you to become the mayor pro tem. You would require a second. We will then vote on it, or the council will vote on it. In the event of a tie, I would break it, and since there's 6 tonight, it's a possibility. We could have a 3-3 vote. This is something I would break just because I would. And so yeah, is there any discussion? Any questions? Well, I would entertain a motion for a nomination.
I'll nominate the one who's not here. Councilmember Blair.
I believe the person has to accept the nomination.
I think they kind of have to be here.
They have to, the person has to be able to accept the nomination as well. So if they're not here, unfortunately, they cannot accept the nomination.
Probably planned that.
And we have to make a nomination tonight.
Correct. So if you have, if someone, so how about this? Is there anyone interested in the position? Let's see,
There you go.
Councilmember Hess, Councilmember Hawley, or Smith, excuse me, my apology.
I'll nominate Councilmember Holly.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Richardson seconded. Is there any discussion? Call for the vote, and we're gonna do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Richardson. State aye for Councilmember Smith to become Mayor Pro Tem, or nay against her.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman, Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Hess, Councilmember Roy, Councilmember Kaminsky.
Sure.
There's an aye.
Say aye.
All right, congratulations, Councilmember Smith, on becoming the Mayor Pro Tem. All righty, moving along. Council committee assignments. Now, this is something that I took into consideration from all the input, and thank you for every council member that, and everyone gave input, so that was great. We are trying to give everyone their first choice at the very least, as to which committee they are on. Summer council, summer committee chairs, and as I explained before in the previous meeting, the committee chair will go ahead and work with the appropriate committee staff, whether it's mainly a director on each of these committees. So for public, and also I'll just get into it, and then if you have any questions, please ask them. We will, committee staff will go ahead and get you all the relevant information in terms of meetings. They will ask if it's a local meeting or it's a local committee such as public safety, public services, or finance. That will be determined by you, the 3 council members that are on that committee, as to what day and time that you meet. It's your convenience and the chair's convenience. And then, of course, I will go ahead and email this right after the meeting. So starting with public safety, for chair, we have Councilmember Smith. For vice chair, we have Councilmember Roy. For member at large, we have Councilmember Hess. For public services, we have chair is Councilmember Hess. Vice chair is Councilmember Crossman. Member at large is Councilmember Kaminsky. Finance committee is chair would be Councilmember Richardson, vice chair Kaminsky, and member at large Blair. For the steady committee, the South Thurston Economic Development Initiative, it's Councilmember Roy. Liaison to the Yelm Senior Center, Councilmember Richardson. For TCOM, it'll be Councilmember Smith. Yelm Homelessness Task Force, the chair will be Councilmember Crossman, the vice chair will be Councilmember Blair. For Intercity Transit Authority, it'll be Councilmember Hess. Regional Housing Council, Councilmember Hess. Fire Authority Southeast Fire Authority Liaison, Councilmember Smith. Solid Waste Advisory Committee, SWAC, Councilmember Richardson. Nisqually River Council, Councilmember Kaminsky. Thurston Thrives Coordinating Council, Councilmember Roy. Thurston County Law and Justice Council, Councilmember Smith. Thurston EMS Council, the Medic 1 is Councilmember Crossman. Thurston Regional Planning Council Transportation Board, Councilmember Richardson. The 2 that I'm going to be chairing, or not chairing, but representing for the city of Yelm is the South Sound Military and Community Partnership, the Thurston Regional Planning Council. And those are both ones that Mayor Foster both chair or representing for the city of Yelm, and I'm continuing those. One that there was 1 or 2 that he was also on, but I gave those to a council member instead. And which was the Regional Housing Council was one of them. There are a couple that aren't on here that we aren't necessarily a part of at this point, but if that does change, we will go ahead and appoint a council member or myself to those committees. But these are all the committees that are relevant currently and are current for us. Are there any questions?
You said you were gonna email us those?
I am, yep. Yeah, you don't have to write all these down.
And when do these take effect immediately or?
These will take effect immediately as of tonight. As of now. Any chance I get to gal on it. And there actually is a meeting tomorrow, I think, for
Regional housing.
Yeah.
Committee meeting tomorrow, so I
Yeah.
can give him,
You're already on it, you know.
oh, I'm on it.
Yeah, so we'll get you that relevant information though and the Zoom link. And all
Yeah,
that
I
stuff.
can get the stuff to Brian, so.
Are you going to email us the dates and times as well?
No, he'll say-
We'll have to look at our-
No, I'm just joking, yes.
Okay, good.
We'll absolutely get that to you.
My calendar.
Information.
Chief, or I want to call you the chief clerk. The state's on. Anyway, the city clerk will go ahead and email that off to you.
Thank you.
Chief clerk works too. I guess we can change that title. All righty. Any further questions on that? Any assignments? None? All right, moving on. Old business, none scheduled. Item number 8, updates. Permits. On Stancil, interim city administrator.
Chief,
Ready, Chief?
too many chiefs are now. All right, Mayor, Council, nice to see everyone. I just wanted to reiterate regarding the Teamsters contract. That's the first time I got to be a part of a contract other than the FOP. The mayor and I were part of that, and I can tell you that, and I know the mayor already said this, but the appreciation from the staff has really been outpouring for the guidelines that the council set and the willingness to get that done. So our goal going into any of these contracts is to create a contract where we can retain and recruit good employees. And I feel good that this contract that we put on the table for them and they approve unanimously will absolutely do that for us. So we feel really good about that. So I'll just give a few updates. We've had a lot going on in the first 3 weeks of the year. I'll just kind of give an overview of a few things, just keep everybody up to date. So we have 2 police officers that started the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Academy last week. They will be in the academy till roughly the end of May. At that point, they'll graduate. Hopefully they'll get through it okay and graduate. They'll go into a field training program for 14 weeks, and they should be on the road in an officer capacity sometime around September 2022. So we're excited that they were able to get in there and get that done. We will be losing Officer Devin Taylor, who's been with the Yelm Police Department for roughly 20 years. 10 years as a reserve officer, 10 years as a full-time officer. He is relocating his family to Montana, and he's accepted a position as a police officer in Montana. So his last day with us will be February 1st. So that'll be a big loss for us, big shoes to fill. Assistant Chief Carlson will provide an update on the body and in-car camera program that he's been working on. We'll do this at the February 1st study session. We did a presentation last year, but again, I know that the council is new. A lot of council has not heard that presentation. So he'll give an update and an overview of what that is, what that looks like. I'll be able to answer any of your questions as far as how that's going to work. And at this point, timeline, we're looking at roughly end of March, first part of April for full implementation. There's some policy that we're trying to work out with the FOP because it is a policy that they will be involved in. And then, of course, the outfitting of the vehicles, the outfitting of the camera systems on the body. It's a process to get all that finished. And so we'll be presenting that next Tuesday. So anybody have questions on that, feel free. And in regards to the Public Safety Committee, Assistant Chief Carlson will reach out to the 3 members assigned to that as soon as tomorrow. And put out a kind of some dates that's going to work, just like the other department heads will. We'll reach out and try to schedule dates that work for you. Obviously, we want to make sure everyone can attend that's assigned to those boards. And so that will also be a opportunity to learn and ask questions about in the police world or public services world. Use those committees to go in there with those, those hard questions or whatever you want to find out about any topic. You really use those committees to do that. I would encourage you to do so. We've been working hard here at City Hall. with some restructuring, relocating different employees to different buildings, just to improve efficiencies. We think that's going to work out well. We're implementing the adjusted building hours effective next week, next Tuesday. We've been advertising that. We've been talking to our customers at the windows as they've been coming in. And so far, we really haven't seen, any negative pushback. And we've seen more excitement about the opportunities to be able to come in earlier and later in the evening to do service at the city rather than the standard 9 to 5 business hours that just don't work for everybody. So we're excited to see how that's going to work. The Mosman project, if you've driven down Mosman Road, you've seen the construction going on down there. The road will be closed intermittently, just as the infrastructure gets put in. So they're communicating that with us well ahead of time about any closures that might happen for a short period of time. And so everything is on pace with that. And I know Cody hinted at it earlier. Yes, Casey did leave. It was a big loss for us, absolutely. She went to TRPC. And matter of fact, we were on a meeting with her maybe yesterday that she was on it with TRP. So I got to see her and say hello to her. She's fitting in really well and doing well there for TRPC. So we have been busy interviewing candidates to replace Casey. And we were just found out this afternoon that we offered an outstanding individual. We're very excited about this talent this person can bring as a planner. And so she accepted our offer, I believe, this afternoon, and we'll be starting February 1st, next Tuesday. She will be starting. So we'll definitely make sure that we introduce her to everyone when she gets here. And we're very, very excited to be able to get her to come to Yelm. So
I tell her person.
Where is she from?
She comes from, was it Arizona? Well,
yeah, she was a planner down in Page, Arizona for a period of time. She was the only planner in Page, Arizona, population of about 7,000. However, they have a tourist population in the millions. So she brought that, and then she has some time in Bremerton as a planner up there as well. And she's visited several places across the world that have brought her to here. And so it's a very interesting interview, and we're very pleased with how she's going to fit in with the team and what she's going to bring to the table. So yeah, that's about it. Any questions that I can answer? Yes.
What are our new hours?
Yes. So City Hall will be open from 7:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the evening, Monday through Thursday. So we're backing the day out, but we're expanding the time. Public services will be open from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. So we're going to open that, hour and a half, hour early?
2 hours early.
2 hours early. Public safety building will still be Monday to Friday, except we will open at 7:30 instead of 8, Monday through Thursday. And then we will open at 7 on Friday to try to, again, offer some more times outside of the standard 8 to 5, 8 to 4 type hours. So a lot of things can be done online now as well. And again, what we've been doing up here at the front counter every day for the past 2 weeks is talking to every customer that's come in and let them know, is this a problem? Would this create a hardship? Anything. And so we haven't seen any of that yet. And if for some reason it doesn't, work out, then we can readjust them down the road. But we feel like just the standard 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, really doesn't give those folks opportunities that have to work at that same time frame. So I'm excited about it.
You said you were moving people to different buildings?
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is when we went through the reorganization last year with the community development department, when Grant Beck left the city and we went through the reorganization and created the public services department, a lot of those folks were left here in City Hall, even though they worked for Cody and under that department. So they're going to do some remodeling, restructuring in the upstairs portion of the Public Works building. If you've never been down there, it's huge. It's I don't know how many square feet it is, but it's large. And so the idea is to get all of Cody's team together. So rather than having a few here and a few there, the idea is to put them all in the same building and make use of the space that currently is just being used for storage.
Not just because Cody works there, but other staff members they interact with on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, just for the efficiencies and how they all work together and what they do, it just made sense. And so that was the relocating of some folks, and no one's against it. Everyone's excited to be moving to different places. And so I think it'll be good. So, yeah.
And just also, tail off that, City Hall is still gonna be officially open on Fridays. We'll still have people here. If someone needs to reach out for like a permit or something, other than the front desk issues, we'll still have that availability as well.
So no
it's a-
front desk.
Correct, no front desk. It'll officially be closed, but I mean, we'll let someone in to chat with permits. We don't want to stop business from happening, so.
Yeah. Any other questions?
All right, is that everything?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, chief. All righty, let's go to council member updates. Councilmember Richardson.
Well, spent some time at Fort Stevens this morning, Kindness Week, making coffees for teachers and administration. Really appreciate them, and spent some time at a Young Life Club last night. You know, it's outreach to youth, and they did fantastic. So that's all I got.
All righty, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Crossman.
No updates.
Thank you, Councilmember Crossman. Councilmember Smith.
I went to steady meeting and I just have a couple of things like, Lynn was there also, so I'm sure she'll give a full report. I'm just kidding. So just a couple of highlights. The sheriff's office of Thurston County mentioned that they are definitely down quite a bit of staff for a variety of reasons, just something to be aware of. The public health, they're offering free well testing for all of those that were affected by flooding. Rainier is getting a tennis and a pickleball court. I don't even know what pickleball is, but
Maybe our state sport eventually, it sounds like.
Pickleball. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll have to read up on that. And then we met, or the new Bucota mayor was on there, so he got to learn a little bit about it. And then tomorrow is regional housing, so I will talk to Brian about that and get him the information. I'll probably go as well, just to, that's
Great.
it.
Very great. Councilmember Hess.
Report this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Roy.
I did, like Polly said, I was at steady last week. There was a lot of information, Holly shared a lot of it. There is also data available through the EDC. We learned a little bit about that and how underutilized it is. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about that and how we can use that in our communities. Just this afternoon, I attended the Agritourism Advisory Council. And then last night I was at the Boys and Girls Club fundraiser, which was incredible. And they brought in a ton of money to keep that Boys and Girls Club rolling for another year.
Good to hear. Is that everything?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I'm just waiting and excited to get on with my new meetings.
Right on.
Didn't attend anything.
All righty. My report, gave the state of the community last week to Thurston County Chamber. Chief already talked about new business hours. Looking at March 11th is a council retreat. If that's the one shaking head, we need more time, maybe April then.
March 10th is my wedding anniversary.
So probably a no-go for you.
Spend it with us.
No, I don't.
All righty, we'll look for April then. We'll give a couple dates. If council members could give me a couple dates that are good for them on a Friday. And what this would be an overnight. So we would, we're looking at Ocean Shores for the council retreat. And we'd have both council members and department heads there. Each would be doing their own thing for most of it, but there would be some team building for both of us. There'll be some direct reporting from department heads discussing about their departments, what they do, to inform council and to better work with y'all. So we'll go ahead and get that scheduled for April, then early April, if we can. So if council can give me some dates, I'd appreciate it. Met with the Yelm Senior Center. They asked that I would attend one of their meetings, and I did. Got some good information from them, some complaints, some suggestions. It was a very productive meeting. Going to work with staff to see if we can't meet their needs. Lastly, working on a sister city program. We currently have a sister city in Ferns, Ireland, but it's nothing we actually really do with anything, no economic gain or anything. So One, I do have some good contacts with the Korean consulate here in Seattle. And I reached out to the deputy Korean consulate general. And we are starting to work on a program in this very early stages, but sounded interested that we could work on something on possible, like a Korean city as a sister city, which of course would have to have approval for city council. And I will keep you updated as in progress on that. But looking forward to it, and hopefully we can have some economic gain out of it. And other than that, I don't have anything else. There's no executive session scheduled. Is there any good for the order or any other thing? Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Move that we adjourn.
In a second.
Lynn second.
All right, sorry, I didn't hear you. All right, so motion second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion adjourned.